Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'm going to jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So I'm so glad to be back with you here on You Are Free TV. I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel and supporting monthly especially. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to ask everybody, if you can't support, please like and subscribe and share. Definitely like, definitely subscribe, and definitely share. That helps out so much. And we have so much news to jump into. Very exciting couple of news days. So we're just going to jump into the news here. Really amazing stuff happening. So we basically did have Trump actually signing the deal with Iran in Versailles at the table there with Macron, etc., when he went to have dinner after the G7 ended. And basically he had trolled the news saying, oh, he's just going to have JD sign and he won't be signing, but he actually did sign. So this all just came out very, very interesting. And we're going to be, of course, getting big into that because so much is coming out of this. Again, it is the reorganization of the control of sovereign nations away from the City of London, bankster elite control. And this is what is going down, and we're going to jump into it here, but there's so much else I wanted to cover first. There's so much else I'm going to cover. I want to talk about the election steal news that's coming out, all kinds of great stuff that's going on. And now I'm seeing that I'm pausing, and I don't know if I am, but I'll just keep going. Okay, so basically we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. So just hang in there. I'm going to be making some great connections in this video, and I think you'll appreciate it. But I did want to mention a few things that I also think are important first, which I loved the MLB with the Giants coming out with their caps, writing on them Bible verses in protest of having to wear these Pride Month baseball caps in their games in the month of June. And they put on their Genesis 9:12 through 16, which basically conveys the, whenever I see a rainbow in the sky, I remember the covenant between God and all his creation. And I thought that was beautiful and fantastic and just perfect. It's just a simple Bible reference. Of course, they get massively reprimanded. And but what a great thing to do. Fantastic. Love it. And then I also wanted to mention that Dark Horse, that movie starring Jim Caviezel, has now premiered there in Las Vegas, where they're having the Fight the Fraud or Fight Fraud Summit Coalition, the Fighting Fraud Coalition Summit that's going on in Las Vegas these couple of days. And I'll link below. You can, I don't think it's ending tonight. It might be ending tonight, but you can watch the replay. I'll link below where you can watch that, or the live if it's still going on. But this video is getting out kind of late tonight. But really, really amazing speakers, including the former Prime Minister of South Korea, calling for a huge coalition between the United States, between Americans and South Koreans to fight the election steal. And this gets in again to the international case of election crime espionage that is going on, that has everything to do with Trump interrupting, okay, what was with the Senate deep state crime syndicate trying to push through with a vote today to confirm Jay Clayton, okay, into the office as DNI director, right? So that Bill Pulte wouldn't get in there even for a day as the temporary. Trump intervened and they canceled that confirmation hearing today where they were going to push Jay Clayton through. And that means that Bill Pulte is likely going to be in there starting Friday, okay, when Gabbard is leaving. And we're going to see Bill Pulte likely be there at least through the summer 6-week summer vacation of our senators that they get to have every year. And so that is amazing, incredible time, because what we also have here is that Trump is putting in Jim Mcdonald, okay, James Mcdonald, as the U.S. Secretary, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York to replace Clayton. And he has huge experience, which I'm going to be getting into here in a moment, that also is hugely involved in crypto and finance crimes, all of this stuff connected with FTX, gets into Tether, gets into other places. And this all plays into this election espionage international case. So many things coalescing here, while Trump also today comes out at the G7 for his press conference and basically does a big breakup with Israel, or mini breakup. Okay, the big breakup will come if he can prevent Section 224 and out of the NDAA and Section 622 out of the SIAA from going forward to fuse us basically with Israel officially instead of covertly, right? And some things that Trump said today signal that he is going to put a stop to that. And so I might jump into those now because they are so important, but I want to mention one other thing. Oh, and I didn't explain what Dark Horse is, the premiere, Jim Caviezel. This is a movie where he is playing Eduardo Bolsonaro and what happened with the election steal of Brazil and Lula being installed after his massive criminality and everything to do with the stealing of the election and what Bolsonaro went through. And so it's supposed to be incredible. I haven't seen it yet, but please put that on your agenda here coming up as we're going forward here with America 250. Put it on your, things to watch list to get fired up, probably along with Young Washington. That's also coming out of Angel Studios. I don't think until July 3rd. I wish they'd put it out a little bit earlier than that to get people fired up, but there you go. So very, very cool stuff. But what isn't cool is that in Oregon, there's now a petition going around to have a referendum added for legislation to ban hunting. But it's not only ban hunting, which is absolutely crazy in Oregon, but also basically the killing of any animal. I mean, it's across the top crazy town. The killing of any animal for food, farmers, anything. I mean, it goes into the weeds, okay, and scientific experimentation, which I can get on board for, okay, for sure, 100%. But not allowing people to hunt, it is nuts and crazy, but it's okay to liquefy your body into biosludge and spread it over the growing fields, right? Or soon, I'm sure euthanasia for humans will be 100% accepted, and not to mention euthanasia for pets, which they highly do. And so it is just so backwards and crazy. But the reason I'm bringing that up, and people in Oregon have to get active and make sure they know this is coming down the pike, and I'll link it below, is that it's the referendums, okay? These people are active. And on the right, people used to be very, very active, or whatever place you're at, okay? Independent anything. States' referendums are so important, and anybody can do it through petition, right? We saw in LA that woman who got, was it 10 years in prison? She got a long time. Maybe it was 6 years for like 20 years worth of going to Skid Row and getting the drug addicts, the most vulnerable, to pay them a couple dollars, maybe $1, to sign these petitions to get these referendums going in for legislation for their socialist communist regime. And as we just have the election stolen there in LA, it's just important for people to understand local action. Referendums, okay, are a tool that is so incredibly important for people to get around and to take action with. What it is you want to see in your legislature, you have to bring up to the legislature through referendum. It's a different tool that is way more grassroots and way more effective than trying to get your bought and paid for representatives to take up. And so I wanted to be sure and mention that. So, all right, I'm going to go in from there and try to stay focused here. I'll just mention that, of course, Kevin Warsh, they had two two-day meeting of the Fed that concluded today, and basically they kept the rates the same and didn't lower them. There's supposedly going to be a huge restructuring here, but of course they have Jerome Powell in there, and so it's very interesting again with Pulte at DNI. He is the one that brought up and forward the investigation into the remodel of the Fed building, $4.5 billion, an incredible amount of money, and what was going on there to investigate that. So maybe he can, when he's in there with the million other things he's going to have to do, that he can push that a little further along out of the office of it's not a prosecutorial office, but a lot more can be revealed and unclassified. And so, oh, there's so much I want to say. It's like I'm trying to squirrel it in because it's just like a giant leviathan of news. I won't get to all of it today. Some of it will have to wait till the next video. But I will say that that this whole situation with the the plot of the anti-IA extreme religious Christians who are going to go after high value targets at the UFC event. This whole thing was supposed to get staged and run out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. So Fredericksburg, Virginia being there's a residential FBI office there because there's so many feds that live there. And so they're run out of the Richmond field office, but it's a local office because there's just so many feds there. And so they were all supposed to meet up there first 2 days before and get their training, so they knew how to fly the drones and do everything they were going to do. It's just the total playbook of a Fed created group, and we'll talk more about it as it goes on. We do know that 2 Boeing executives were on that B-52H Stratofortress that was blew up there at Edwards Air Force Base. That there were actually 2 Boeing executives that were on that plane, and we know the Pentagon has identified the rest of the victims, and our prayers go out to them. But anyway, we have to. I think I'm going to go to Iran here. We're going to be getting into Dialog that was exposed recently. The incredible Swiss hacktivists that exposed the no-fly list came out with this incredible new revelation about this group called Dialog, started by Peter Thiel, and we're going to be getting into that shortly as well. But I want to mention, should I get into Dialog now? Maybe I'll get into Dialog now. Dialog, okay, it turns out that this is like a tech version of Bilderberg, of a secret society that's just now being exposed. And basically, this was Maya Arsen Kremu. She's she, I think it's Maya, Swiss hacktivist. She exposed the no-fly list that was going on by the deep state that Tulsi Gabbard got caught up in after she mentioned the biolabs in Ukraine, etc., and all of this. And so very interesting that she brings this to light, and I'm going to link an article below where you can read about it. But this was started by Peter Thiel way back in 2006, and it's just amazing because as Peter Thiel has moved to Argentina with his whole family, and we know that Argentina, we got Milikovsky, the same former name of Netanyahu's family out of Russia, and all of the burning down, okay, of the arson that has gone on in Argentina, the buying up of land by Israeli oligarchs, creating this kind of whole new, Israel South there. And then we get the situation of Peter Thiel doing this Armageddon psyop, okay, over the last few years, where he's been going around Oxford, England, and etc., talking about Armageddon. There's going to be the Gog Magog. It's all going to happen, and it's very interesting because Trump came out today when he was talking about Iran, and he said, "You need to understand, I prevented a nuclear holocaust. Okay, I prevented a nuclear holocaust." And with all the what he calls low IQ people who have been attacking Trump for the last 2 or 3 months, don't get that it's likely very true. Not because necessarily Iran was going to do it, but possibly puppets through the city of London or Israel for entertainment purposes only, that there was a plan in place already to get this going. And Trump has thwarted it and also managed to change the entire situation around where the USA has the upper hand in what's going to be the restructuring and management of shipping through the Hormuz. And we don't know all the details yet. The memorandum of understanding that everybody's hair on fire about is actually really good. It's actually really good. This was never about destroying Iran, okay? And it's not even necessarily about the nuclear issue. It is about getting rid of the puppeteers from the city of London running their proxies through Iran and seizing the assets, okay, having the control over them, which Scott Bessent does, and basically saying, we're going to control you, we're going to change this, you have to comply with the fact that you're no longer puppets of the City of London bankster cartel, the globalist cartel, that this is going to change, and shipping worldwide is going to change outside of that cartel. And this is what is very interesting. But back to Dialog. I get off the track. Back to Dialog and this whole situation of, talk about breakaway civilizations, Argentina, Israel South, the whole oligarch situation, and these billionaires and tech, transhumanist AI technocrats that want AI to run the world and want to control all of us in a massive surveillance prison planet, digital currency. Or so many of them seem to be involved in this Dialog group, okay, which is, again, formed by Thiel in 2006, and they have annual retreats. They have one coming up very soon during Senate recess, right? Maybe Ted Cruz will go because he's on the list, okay? He's on the list. The next retreat is August 12th to 16 outside of Dublin, Ireland, in a fancy redoubt there outside of Dublin. So very interesting place to have it. Yeah, hopefully they'll arrive to massive uprising by then in Dublin. And it's called Dialog Global. Dialog, meaning the name of their society, Dialog Global 2026. And so far there's 222 elites that are registered to attend that Cremu was able to expose. And basically, they have this private blog. It looks like to enter into becoming a member, you have to pay initially a 16 grand fee to register. And 16 grand, that's not much for these people. And they have, different webinars. They've got all kinds of stuff where you can, listen to their baloney. One of them was how to build a cult. How to build a cult. And guess who was moderating that group? These are groups that get together and spitball about, with all of their expertise, how to destroy freedom and humanity and America, how to build a cult. And the moderator for how to build a cult was the founder, is the founder of pray.com, the founder, according to this article that I'm linking below. And so very, very intense and awful, evil stuff. And so getting more into it, the people that are registered on there, we get Scott Bessent on there, our Secretary of Treasury. And, I'm a big fan on the what I normally call the redemptive arc, okay, of people who have come out of these deep state places and come back to transform into fighting against Cartel Babylon instead of working with and for them. And so Scott Bessent, it looked like he joined, I think it's 2022, but don't hold me to that. And so interesting. He's a member on there. We've got Elon Musk on there, of course, but there's tons of tech guys on there. Okay, they're all part of this. Ted Cruz, as I said, Secretary of the Army, Don Driscoll, right? Dan Driscoll, he's on there. Jim Himes, of course, he's the on the House Intel Committee, very, very central to do with contracts that come from places like Palantir, et cetera, in how AI, et cetera, is moving into the Pentagon and how this all goes down. And Joe Lansdale, one of the co-founders of Palantir, is on there. And then you get General Alexis Grinkovich, who is since last year the new NATO allied commander, okay, for the U.S. And he came out the other day and said, or last week, and he had said in response to, Ukraine war and this kind of thing, he had said, hey, I don't see Putin being an aggressor. I don't see them wanting to attack Europe. So it's very interesting, all of these machinations of these, spider webs connecting what these people are doing, what their team they're on, how are they doing it, what's going on, because there's also enormous amounts of other people involved in this. So he's also the head of US of Eurocom. So pretty big ups there. But then we get people like Jonathan Greenblatt, okay, the CEO of Anti-Defamation League of ADL. Greenblatt's there on the Dialog list, and we get Avron Hoffman, who's the chairman, who founded SafeGraph, which is basically data location. It's basically locating you, geolocation type company, SafeGraph, and then LiveRamp, which is identity confirmation. Okay, so the full surveillance ticket right there. Maybe verified. Maybe the Einhorn brothers will get into Dialog soon enough with their verified company. But then we get Rafi Grinberg, who's the executive director. Okay, and then they have this dating group. If you're single and you're multimillionaire tech person, you can get on to dating.dialog.org, something like this. And apparently this woman was able to just full on go through and expose all of this, and so many of the pages were left unprotected. So I wanted to let you know about Dialog, and it's very interesting. You're going after Signal. We have in the UK now the Signal connected to the Fed operation there at the UFC event at the White House. Trump was asked about it while he was at G7. He's like, I haven't heard about that. I don't know what's going on there. And then you have the UK, and it was very interesting watching Trump really diss Starmer, and Starmer not showing up or showing up late. Everything that's going on with Starmer, who is not long for he's at his last G7. Let's just say that, but. Starmer, of course, pushing through this ban for kids, I think 15 and under, to have access to social media, except for all the leftists and grooming pervert sites. Okay, so they can still go on all these places that put them in grave danger. Okay, and they can go on Blue Sky. But they can't go on Twitter, and they can't go on YouTube, and they can't go on all these other places where they can access a multitude of information across the spectrum. They're just limited to leftist propaganda and actual predatory websites. And this is obviously just the push for the digital ID for everybody, because you'll have to prove that you are over 16 years old, 16 and older. And they're already doing it in Australia. In Australia, it's even getting worse. In 2027, the full thing's going massively bigger. So this is what's going on, as there's a huge pushback out of Ireland and Scotland, etc., against the government, and of course with the Restore Britain party. So very interesting, because I did watch a reform party, the guy who everybody thinks is the stalking horse of Nigel Farage, who, if reform gets in power, will actually be this Zir Yusuf, who will take the prime ministership, and not Nigel Farage. And I've come around to understand that that seems true. I watched him speak at the Heritage Foundation the other day, and it is this. It does seem to me like this situation of that if we got this Reform Party in, it would end up being the first Muslim, prime minister of the UK, and that to me is unacceptable at this juncture in time, when there is an absolute need for a British native to who is a populist Britain first person to be the next prime minister. So very, very interesting there. We're going to keep watching it, but let's jump back to this the situation of Clayton. Okay, that Senate confirmation hearing being stopped today, and that they were trying to rush through before Friday, where you would have Bill Pulte come in and occupy the seat there, get access to everything Gabbard has and beyond at the DNI, as DNI acting director and temporary acting director and placeholder, as Trump has said. And basically this coming in and kiboshing that by Trump and saying, hey, if you want to, let's get Jim Mcdonald as SDNY U.S. attorney in first. That if you confirm Jim Mcdonald, because Clayton will be leaving SDNY if you confirm him, so confirm Jim Mcdonald first, and then we'll allow you to put Clayton in. Because the thing with Jim Mcdonald, which is what I might go to now because it is really important here, is that Jim Mcdonald, why Trump is putting him in is because he was in 2017 to 20, he was in charge of, he was director of the enforcement at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, under Trump. And his focus was on digital assets crimes, basically, and task forces. And so then after he left that, he went and worked at Sullivan and Cromwell, right? Super elite law firm. And they dealt with the FTX bankruptcy, right? We had Bankman-Fried. His appeal was just denied. He's staying in prison. His sentence is staying. And so he dealt with their bankruptcy proceedings. And I think another company that was involved with FTX, and that we're seeing this situation here to do with crypto and to do with finance fraud. And that I believe this all interconnects with this case that I've been talking about since last week, about this first ever international election crime espionage case that's going on both in, Miami with that U.S. attorney there, is it Canones down there in Miami. He's fantastic, right? And then and connected with Judge Cannon, etc. He's the U.S. attorney, but the judge that's taking that case is excellent as well. I don't have his name on the tip of my brain at the moment. I'll link it again below. But we've got, if we have Mcdonald in New York, that is where the other side of this case. And both of these, with Pulte and Mcdonald together, Pulte with his everything housing, everything real estate fraud, everything to do with financing, how to use shell companies with real estate money laundering, etc. All of this election espionage international case with the CCP, the UK, the Crown, Russian software, all of this interconnected with NGOs, is all in the wheelhouse of the Pulte-McDonald combo, right? And so important here, because what we get with McDonald is we get the perfect combination with digital assets and crypto and money laundering experience. Okay, and that he's going to be able to be the most important. This is the most important in the Southern District of New York. It is the number one most important U.S. Attorney federal prosecution position in the country, and it deals with Wall Street. It deals with financial fraud, and so with this case happening there in the Southern District of New York, involving crypto, involving real estate, involving all of this stuff, we get him there, and then we get Pulte at DNI to uncover the big evidence. Okay, and so great news that Trump was able to do that today and able to get these people, get the Senate reined in, right? And Thune needs to go. Thune needs to go. Okay, one thing we learned from the fight fraud summit there in Las Vegas is the former Prime Minister Hwang of South Korea coming to speak at this and talking about Yoon, who's in prison, who was impeached because he called martial law on all the election fraud and was sending the military police out to seize the machines from the National Election Commission. Okay, and you had their National Assembly go for immediate massive impeachment and removal of him, and now he's in prison, Yoon, right? We have an ambassador from the U.S. During Trump's last term who is now prevented from leaving Korea, and on June 3rd in South Korea, they just had a totally stolen election, totally stolen, and now a communist president is now, CCP president is now there, and they're going through a huge coup, just like we did, just like Bolsonaro, just like everywhere, okay, across the world, and just recently in LA and beyond. I'd say South Carolina with Lindsey Graham winning that primary from Mark Lynch. That we're seeing this happening, and while we're looking at this going on, we're seeing that Hwang, former prime minister, coming over and saying, we want to join with the USA. We want to fire you up to take more action. Why aren't there hundreds of thousands of people marching in LA to fight what's going on with the election steal there, with the mayorship, etc., like we are in South Korea right now? There's hundreds of thousands of people marching in the streets since June 3rd, ongoing every day. Okay, and they are carrying American flags as well as South Korean flags. They know they need America. And now that China has succeeded in installing a communist president there, they are in trouble, because in North Korea after the war, they slaughtered all the Christians, and Christianity is huge and massive and powerful in South Korea. And so you have the priests there, you have the pastors, reverends, very, very clearly outspoken about the election steal. Okay, that's not like here, right? It's not like here. Remember that Freedom Con that's going on this weekend. If you need to get fired up, get your pastor fired up. Freedom Con in Washington State, happening over Father's Day weekend. I'll link it below. That they're saying we need the United States as base. You know, that Humphreys base, the biggest U.S. base in the world. It needs to. We need you to be there, USA, to defend us, and we also need you to fight for us as Christians, because will be slaughtered just like they did in North Korea, and it will happen fast. And so they're out. They knew the elections were stolen. You had the man in charge of the elections in North Korea resign. So that's a big sign. He resigned because there was a massive ballot shortage purposefully done in the red areas, in the populist areas. And so people rose up. So they live in these giant high rises in South Korea, and their polling stations there where they vote is in there, because there's thousands of them and living in one high rise. They vote in their building in the on the first floor there, and so basically when ballots didn't arrive, they were specifically in these anti-communist areas, in these freedom areas. The people immediately just started protesting and marching, and so he was forced to resign. But that's little that's big compared to here, compared to the USA, where you can't get anybody prosecuted or resigned for anything to do with the steals that continue to go on. And that's why we need to get Senator Thune out as leader immediately. Immediately, he has to go. 202-224-3121 to yell at your senator that Thune has to go. He's obstructing all of Trump's agenda, all of Trump's absolute incredible attempts to save this country. And the SAVE Act, we should be out in the streets marching for the Save America Act. It's absolutely ridiculous. And for Thune to say, oh, we could only get about 20 senators to vote for the Senate, to vote for the SAVE Act, then what does your senator think? Get them to tell you which way they would vote, because there's the fact that there hasn't been a named vote, okay, that we get to see what our senators think when 83% of America, across the board, back, both sides, whatever, independent, that everybody wants the SAVE Act, okay, and that they keep denying us of that and denying Trump's administration of it. And it's criminal, it's treasonous. So again, 2321, 202-224-2321 if you want to talk and speak your mind directly to hopefully not long for the position leader Thune. And so going forward with this is this whole movement in South Korea and them calling for us to unite with them and to get active. And I think this is connected to this Project Hammer that has been rising up again about that there will be prosecutions internationally that are coming out of this espionage case, that it won't only be the US that is prosecuting, but it will be other countries also prosecuting what happened with the 2020 election steal and beyond, okay, like the Brazil, etc., in other countries. And so we have to look to see what's going to be coming down. So we have Huang, the former prime minister, who is really warning us. He started a party. What's the name of his party? He started a party. It's called the Freedom and Innovation Party. Freedom and Innovation Party. And it started off, he left his other party because it was taken over by rhinos. And so he started a new party. And now, since the steal that happened on June 3rd in South Korea, there is a massive, massive uprising and people all joining this party and, asking America to join. And they're saying Korea wants to support America this time around, that South Korea exists because of the USA stopping the Chinese communist takeover of their country, and that, we need each other. And it's a great, great message. And they're very focused on what is called AWEB, which is the Association of World Election Bodies. And you don't hear about that too much here in the United States. AWEB, Association of World Election Bodies. And this is 120 countries, okay, that this runs out of. We know all the apparatus that runs out of it with the machines and the software and the codes and the stealing. But basically, it's funded by Soros and throughout these decades, USAID money. A lot of that cut off now. But basically, they export. The reason South Korea knows about it so much is because it's a distribution hub for the software and the machines, right? And we've heard about this before with the CCP and their altered hardware machines as well. But they export machines and software worldwide out of South Korea. But AWEB literally is the one that's supplying the machines and software worldwide. Okay, and it's very important that we understand, what we're dealing with, this Leviathan, why we need the Save America Act, why it has to happen. But we're so close in, and I believe there is this activation of the hammer. So I'm going to leave that there for now, and I think move on to what I think was just a smackdown of Israel by Trump today, and good wins with this nuclear, this Iran deal. and what Trump had to say today, which, people need to understand. We stopped a nuclear holocaust. And I believe that is in reference to both Israel and the EU globalist bankster Cabal pushing for World War III. Peter Thiel's Armageddon that was supposed to be happening. And when we look at this, um, what he had to say to Israel, I think this is just incredible, because he just smacked down Israel hard and um, exposed their betrayals of America. And you could see with Howard Lutnick on one side and Marco Rubio on the other, where they would just kind of, their faces kept getting more and more ashen, as he was talking, as Trump was talking. And he looks better. He looked quite like he was suffering for a couple of days there with all that flying and jet lag and lack of sleep. But he's coming back to himself, and thank goodness and thank God for that. Truly, truly, pray, pray, pray for President Trump, because with all the jackals and weasels all around him, I do believe he stands there as a stalwart fighting for international sovereignty of nations in our country, and that it is a process of a step-by-step puzzle piecing together situation, because it is unraveling a massive, massive spiderweb ball of yarn of interconnected ways that this massive cabal financially operates to control the world. And it is a huge, huge thing to take apart. And so, great, great speech at G7 today. Basically, he said that yeah, it was so great. With Israel, he starts out by saying, only stupid people say we should keep dropping bombs on Iran. Only stupid people say that, clearly referencing Israel, because they are the ones who want him to keep BOM being Iran. He said, I don't want to see an economic catastrophe in Iran. I'm not going to, the point wasn't to destroy Iran, it was to go after the nuclear aspect, but we know actually it was about reorganizing global shipping and energy freedom from the City of London, and going after the puppet control mechanisms out of the City of London money laundering banks. And all the money's been seized. And what Trump is saying is that, yes, there's $300 billion that the Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia are putting up as a possible infrastructure rebuild in Iran, but that comes through us with our permission if Iran follows the steps and sticks with the plan in what is the peace deal coming up. And he said there's no U.S. money going to Iran. He said the money we've seized, okay, that Scott Bessent has seized all over the world, and including and especially, and just meeting with the finance minister in London yesterday before flying to the G7. All of that money is Iran's money, and it's oligarch money, but it's been released from the oligarchs, shall we say, the IRGC, et cetera, to go back to Iran, okay, to go for the new current regime and new current government that will come into play, and that they will get access to that Iranian money that will be used to run their government. And this other infrastructure, it's not reparations, it's infrastructure investment by Arab countries, okay, and not US dollars going in there. But very interesting to hear him say that Israel, not mentioned but said, only stupid people want us to keep BOM being Iran. I don't want to see an economic catastrophe in Iran at all. That's never been the point. And he said he let the cat out of the bag about killing Soleimani, who was, he called him the mad genius or the architect of blowing up all of our American service members all over the Middle East in these disgusting pay-for-play wars of your Lindsey Graham and your, McCain and your McConnell and your Warner and all of these dirtbags, Combs, Biden et al. He said, when I killed Soleimani, it was a joint venture with Israel. It was supposed to be. It had been planned that way, a joint venture with Israel. And then he said the night before, Israel pulled out. and said they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to kill Soleimani. And of course, we had many times with Iraq, etc., where we had Israel pull out of various intelligence ventures that killed American citizens for entertainment purposes only. Multiple things that Trump knows. Trump knows. Just look at just what happened with the USS Liberty. That mass he put out on the floor there in the Congress, and the exposure there. All of this exposure, it makes me think, of Q and Israel last. And what has the Iran war done besides restructure what's going on in Iran and the Straits of Hormuz and this whole terrorism factory of Middle East Arab terrorism run by the City of London? What else has come of it? Exposure of Israel and Mossad and MI6 and CIA, but especially Israel and Mossad being these key players, okay, in creating so much of the mayhem. And Trump comes out, and I'll get back to Soleimani in a minute, but he comes out and he says, Lebanon has been massively disrespected. He said, look at it. Look at Beirut. 60 years ago, for centuries, it was the hub. It was the center of the Middle East for, for intellect, for culture, for everything. And now look at Lebanon. And he basically just said, I'm disgusted with what's going on, how Lebanon is being treated, and how what Israel is doing there. And he also comes out then about Soleimani, and he said, Israel pulled out of this mission to kill Soleimani. And so me with my Department of Defense at the time, we did it. We did it without Israel. And this is when he kept referring back saying, it all began with Soleimani. This all began with Soleimani. But what began with Soleimani? I think it was Trump's realization that Israel is a double-dealing agent, okay, globalist agent of mayhem and destruction for Bank Street elite, and will sacrifice anyone for some larger money mission. And I pray for the people of Israel who might want to leave, seriously. I don't know how it could be safe. I don't know how it could be safe there. But yeah, so going on from there, his pushing to get, he said, Netanyahu and I have a dispute over Lebanon. Basically, stop killing tons of people there. And Trump goes on to say, and this is key as well, when we look at the Samson option, we look at the nuclear threat of Israel and false flagging and all of it. That B-52H bomb, Stratofortress bomber that just blew up with 2 executives from Boeing on board, and 6 other poor souls that was had this special new radar put in it to be nuclear capable for operations coming up. And it's very important, because what Trump then came out and said is, look, I want a denuclearization worldwide treaty. I want denuclearization to be part of what I'm going to do going forward. And he said that he knows he said there's 2 other big players, right? And of course he's referencing Putin and Xi, China and Russia. And he says, I know one is really ready, and that's Putin, who's already signaled that he wants to denuclearize and said it himself. And Xi, he's referring to, is not. But another player who's not, and who is not part of the nuclear treaty, is Israel. And their unknown amount of nukes they have, and their unwillingness to have it inspected. And so Trump coming out and saying, I want denuclearization, also a big signal. He says, I love Israel as a partner, but with Hezbollah, they need to do better. Stop the mass killing when you're going after targets. And yeah, it was really amazing. He said, I need to end this now, because I'm not going to, cause international, depression that could come with the importance of energy flowing freely. And he said that basically, Iran is going to need investment into their reconstruction, and kind of referring again to Israel when he says, some people want me to stop Iran even having ballistic missiles. And he's like, I can't do that. He's like, I can't. He's like, how am I going to do that? He's like, I'm not going to, fight and bomb Iran until they have zero, not one ballistic missile left. And he said, basically, he said, there is, that what can ballistic missiles do? He said they can cause damage nearby, but they're not going to blow up the world, okay, like a nuclear bomb. Again, I just feel a huge amount of things said in there that are very, very positive and very important for people to understand as this is winding down. And we just pray, pray, pray that, for Trump's safety and for the safety of our earth and our world, right? As Peter Thiel and his Dialog creepos would like to see it destroyed and an AI Leviathan grow up from its ashes with his Armageddon dream that he has, his fantasy. And so very interesting, Trump also, when questioned about the USMCA, okay, that he did in his last presidency, and he did it to get rid of NAFTA because it was killing the USA, which it was designed to do, and our manufacturing all offshore, et cetera, et cetera. Canada and Mexico just, stealing everything, destroying everything in the jobs in the cities of America, and the infrastructure, just devastation, just total ghost towns left behind, and people with no jobs, and poverty and crime and drugs. And so he also said that there was a international drug trafficking agreement made at G7. I haven't had access to see the writing on that. He inferred there's also a big AI agreement that I'd be very interesting to hear about as well, because I'm sure a lot of those Dialog people on the list were probably there. We know they went from I think it was DeepMind, and it's one of the DeepMind people was on the list. It was Anthropic, and of course their new model, that is the more controlled version out of Mythos, has been banned. And X wasn't there. You didn't have Musk, okay, the new trillionaire. He wasn't there. He wasn't invited to the party. But Sam Altman, okay, OpenAI was there as well. So very interesting there. But on this international drug trafficking sort of pact or agreement that they're coming up with, how about we get, the human and children trafficking, women trafficking as part of that, right? That would be really important, as the Migration Pact is now moving their army hordes with the EU in control, probably to quell the areas that are rising up, to bring even more violent young sub-Saharan African men into Western culture as the uprisings are taking off. So there's that, but basically Trump saying the USMCA is expiring. He said, who knew I'd be here again now, and I'd be here for the end of the USMCA. And so I get to decide if it's going to renew or not. And he's like, I'm leaning towards no. I don't want it. They rip us off. Mexico and Canada both treat us bad. And that's an understatement. And with Scheinbaum and Carney, globalists, basically he said, I don't want to or intend to extend or renew the USMCA. I'll talk about it, maybe, maybe. But basically it's a bad deal for America, he says. And so, again, fantastic news there about the USMCA. And so I'm going to leave it there. I know that there was tons more, and I also will have more to put out in the next video, because it's just an unending supply of information I have here. And I will just mention that Netanyahu did post in the threat zone, just put out this post that Matt Getz retweeted, of him sitting with the Mossad director, with on the coffee table is some fuzzed out documents, that are, I'm sure, some kind of veiled threat of some release of vital information, likely against Trump. So, yeah, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic news. So much going on, so much we have to fight and do. So, so important. So let's get busy. Let's get busy. One thing that the South Korean contingent there at the Fight Fraud Coalition in Las Vegas had to say um, is they said, your midterms are coming and you have to stop them being stolen. You have to stop what would come. Right now, they have a coup on their country. It's only been, 6 years since our coup. And don't forget, you need to stop it. It's going to happen. And they will impeach Trump. They will, absolutely go after everybody. And that, Korea needs us to fight now and get active. Okay. The primaries are ticking off one by one. There's lots of losses. And it's so important that everybody get out and be part of the coalition of saving the country right now, making the phone calls to your senators about the SAVE Act, organizing a standout in your town, and putting up a table to instruct people how to call their senators. But basically, that it's so important that we get involved in these primaries and what is happening in these next few, 2 months, right? So I will leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video to have information that you don't find elsewhere or you find inspiring, please support the channel. It'd be so welcome, especially monthly. And there's ways to do so below. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And I also love my sponsor, and you're going to be hearing from them shortly with more great news about c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. And this really is the miracle molecule that basically gets into your mitochondria, cleans out the garbage, the toxins, the waste, and it combines with your two master hormones, your glutathione and your melatonin, to get them out of the body, and it carries it out like a garbage truck. It's amazing, and it stays in your body a long time, reconstituting. Made in the best lab in the world with proprietary, amazing ingredients in Houston, Texas. Okay, single sourced, incredible olive oil, just beautiful ingredients, super pure. That's why they call it ESS 60 instead of carbon 60, because it is human grade. It is the purest of the pure, with no solvents, nothing allowed to remain in the in the oil. So incredible. This is the olive oil. We've got, of course, the MCT oil, which I love as well. And you get 15% off if you've ever donated to the channel. Then you'll automatically get a link and new email sent to you with a new link for getting 15% off. And then anyone who donates to the channel gets entered into the monthly 2-bottle giveaway to 2 different You Are Free TV supporters. Randomly selected 2 people get a bottle of the capsules, which are awesome because they're the olive oil, most powerful of the capsules, of the mixtures, and you can carry them in your pocket, use them for energy. You get great focus, great mood, great drive, determination, but also used for all the big degenerative diseases. Okay, the alternative clinics for the big C buy that up by the caseloads, the people who are dealing with that problem, central nervous system diseases, all of this. It all begins with cellular degeneration, cellular malfunction. And this gets the garbage out of your cells, out of your mitochondria, helps to, preserve your DNA and allow them to repair, et cetera, et cetera. So incredible stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Didn't think it would be this long, especially because I had so much more to say. But I'm so glad to be with you. And just remember, you are free. I'll see you next time.